Welcome to Green Construction, and this week we're going to be going through each step in the process to deliver a green or sustainable building from the contractor's perspective. And we see all the time where we have these wonderfully designed green buildings, and in many cases we find that we might have trouble in the field, or sometimes the designers have overestimated the ability to install and or produce a green technology in the field. So the purpose of this training this week is going to be to really go through those steps. And we're going to start at the beginning with general conditions and take you through all of the different steps that might be involved in getting all the way through to site completion. So why don't we just go ahead and get started. And the first strategy that I want to talk about today is green procurement. Everybody talks about, yes, we have to go green. The actual process by finding local materials is actually very time consuming. Finding regional materials will help to boost the local economy. So again, going back to the triple and quadruple bottom line, what we're seeing here is the opportunity to reinvest in the local economy. And the other big part of that is there's a lot of carbon stored in the transportation, manufacture, and demolition of materials. The more that we can reduce that by specifying local materials, the better off for the environment. And obviously just general less air pollution and impact on the environment. Now, the other big one that I see is construction waste recycling. And I've been doing this for 20 years. And 20 years ago, we couldn't even talk about construction waste recycling. Now it's becoming standard practice where when we covered LEED, for example, we're expected to get about 75% construction waste recycling rates. And some of the strategies that we use, for example, are centralized cutting areas in order to minimize the waste and keep control of it in certain locations. Subcontractors that are new to this process will balk at this, but over time, we know that we can change behaviors, and we know that ultimately we can do this. So typically, we have smaller bins and larger bins now to make it easier to recycle, and we label those bins very carefully, and we label them in multiple languages. As you know, all job sites pretty much all over the world are pretty multicultural and multi-international. So now we get into commingled versus separated streams. More and more we're moving to commingled and letting subcontractors that actually work on the job to take care of all that and give you your LEED tickets. A little bit more on recycling. There's a lot of money to be made, or at least enough money to be made to run a company for a profit that's actually going to be coming to your job site and taking these away for you and giving you the documentation you need for your LEED certification. So all of this is really critical, and not just for meeting LEED, but for the environment as a whole. There's no reason that we should be not having 80 to 90% construction waste recycling on the job site. All of this is good material that has value on the open market, metal especially. Now, part of this whole thing requires a lot of planning. And I always say that if you're a good builder that keeps good records, that is already planning, green construction is going to be very easy. If you're a builder who likes to cut corners, you're going to have a really, really hard time with sustainable design and construction. Signage is really critical. How do we begin to train people to do that? The job foremans are critical. If they're caught recycling or caught not recycling, either way, that sets the tone for the rest of the job site. And so a lot of times you'll see with subcontractors that are new to the process, there will be special clauses written into the subcontracts to make sure that they are held responsible for that. But it has to be a direct, and you guys, as well as I know, in the job field, direct communication is always the best. And if you think about it like this, think about like OSHA. In this country, we have OSHA, which is Basic Constructor Safety. What we do is we tend to mix in all the talks about sustainability and green practices into the same, or added on to the same talks that we might do for job safety. And that goes a long way in terms of understanding indoor air quality during construction. We know that when we're doing renovation projects, we want to protect the HVAC system from dust and debris, and certainly protecting the other workers from dust and debris so that we protect them. Now that's been a common practice amongst builders, but now with LEED, what LEED is asking for is a much higher investment in time and effort and cost to make sure that the indoor air quality stays clean during construction and during construction. Now, some of the things that are really important, obviously we want to look at fumes and all of those kind of things. That's kind of obvious. The big strategy right now is sealing off the ductwork during construction. So they make these large socks. These socks go on top of the ductwork every week. Those socks get washed and put back on. And what that does is, of course, protect the building from gathering dust during the process. Now, furthermore, it's important for you to understand the difference between positive pressure and negative pressure. All spaces have some sort of pressure. Either air is being forced to move into a space or out of a space. And this is a way by using pressurized spaces, we can protect other spaces. So typically spaces that are occupied by people want to have positive pressure to push dust back out of their space. And those people already in the dust and debris will have negative pressure in their construction zones in order to minimize the impact on other people. Now, of course, as you generate these pressurized zones, you have to watch out for backdrafting in case of a fire. That's pretty critical. And clearly, smoking is now, at least in the U.S., off limits, and even off limits during construction now. So it's really an interesting time to be thinking about, how can I change my behaviors to help the LEED process? How do I bring points to the process? And in the next lecture, we're going to be looking at site work, foundations and such, and we're going to go forward and look at that next. Thank you.